There was some reporting out there a couple of weeks ago about Spence Crawford being close. You probably heard the same things I did, that they're not there yet. June is not going to happen. I should stop letting myself become kind of, Charlie Brown with Lucy on this thing. But, we've got Alexis Rocha, who was the WBO mandatory, moving on. He's going to fight Anthony Young on May 27th. I said this last week. Rocha is under the impression that Spence is going to fight Crawford next. But again, until we get these guys signed, you just can't believe it. So, what do you think? What's your gut on this one when it comes to Spence and Crawford? Because we still don't have Keith Thurman, Errol Spence announced, and that fight was supposed to be in May. And we're recording this on April 11th. If you're going to have that fight, you better announce it rather quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will rewind a little bit. When Rocha announced that he was going to move on, that was like, okay, maybe now there is something to spend. We knew Spence and Crawford were talking. I thought maybe they were just talking, okay, we're going to do these fights next, and then maybe, meet each other later and just kind of get that out of the way so they don't drag out negotiations. Once Rocha decided he was moving on, I said, all right, maybe there's a shot. So you mentioned Rocha is convinced that they're fighting next. The WBO is convinced that they're fighting next. The WBC seems to believe that they're fighting next. The people who are actually involved in the event don't seem to believe they're at least not fighting June 17th as reported. So I think it's a shame. It's kind of being handled worse than it was last year. Because last year,
How is that possible? How is that possible? Exactly. That was as bungled as you can make it last year. That was like hedge funds. And let's do an Instagram live. Let's tweet each other. Like, that was ridiculous.
Yeah. So last year, it got to the point, I think we finally believed, oh my God, this is actually going to happen. Once it didn't happen, I was like back to being checked out with it. Because prior to 2022, I never believed they were going to fight each other at welterweight. Then they got to the point, I said, all right, we're finally going to get it. Once it fell apart, I said, okay, I'm done with it. I'm not getting Charlie Brown in this one. I'm still not there yet. A part of me still doesn't want to believe that it will happen, because I'm seeing all the steps the WBC has taken. So they ordered Ugas and Mario Barrios to fight for an interim title. So if Spence is in fact going to fight Terence Crawford next, where does that leave Keith Thurman? Now, granted, I know he only has one win in however long was it, 3-4 years. So you could argue, oh, he doesn't deserve the shot. But according to the sanctioning bodies, he's the mandatory challenger. The WBC named that fight last November. They were supposed to fight. It got to the point where Thurman was told, well, if you want this fight, it's not going to happen at 147. His exact words are, I'm aware of what's going on and I am on board. I don't care. I just want the fight. With Spence, Spence is not afraid of anybody. Let's put that right out there. I just feel like he doesn't want to give Keith Thurman that payday. He just doesn't like him. He doesn't want to make money off him. I think that's the only holdup in that fight. Right. But with this Crawford thing, they're not going to make the same mistake, because last year they had a bunch of people on hold. They were expecting that fight to happen, and a bunch of, they wound up going the rest of 22. A lot of guys only fought once last year, guys that were supposed to fight in that November-December timeframe. Those fights didn't happen. They can't do that again. So they have to keep the line moving. So I do believe that Spence Thurman is the contingency plan at this point. And the shame of it is, when they said, once we were all of the belief that the fight was never going to happen, Spence Crawford, Spence Thurman was, look, it's not a desirable pay-per-view, but it's not a bad alternative. It's like, okay, it's kind of unfinished business, and then Spence goes and does whatever he wants. Now that we're back to believing Spence Crawford could happen, and that if it doesn't, now he's back to fighting it. Now all of a sudden a Keith Thurman fight is in an entirely different light. I don't think it's that bad of a fight, but people just aren't going to react well to it. And I'm still stuck with, if Crawford doesn't fight Spence next, who is he fighting? Because he's not fighting Rocha. That was mandatory. And Rocha is still going to be the mandatory as long as he beats Anthony Young. He's not going to get away with fighting someone like Blair Cobbs. I certainly hope that's not next.
No, and I speculate, like, could he fight Virgil Ortiz? I mean, he could, but I do think, from everything I was hearing, we're going to get Virgil rescheduled in July, maybe. Yes,
that's exactly
against Stanionis. So that seems to be on paper, penciled anyway. And it comes back to the same debate we had before, Jake. Like, who does Crawford work with? Like, he's obviously not going to work with PBC. He's not going to work with Top Rank. Golden Boy's kind of the only game in town. Matchroom's got nothing, unless you want like a B level. I mean, you want to go to fight Conor Benn? I mean, I guess, but that's probably not going to happen. He's low on options at this point, and we could be back to Bud Crawford, once a year guy there. So, I mean, do you think that, with Spence Thurman, like, is May still on the table in your mind?
No, absolutely not. I would think Juneteenth weekend. We would see that fight. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's, again, not a bad consolation prize. Yeah. I think there's, again, blood feud there. Like, Spence hates Thurman with the fire of 1,000 suns, and all because Thurman kind of dismissed him years ago as a future opponent. So not bad, but Yeah.
The only thing I will say on that is if the rumors are true, then supposedly by next weekend at the Tank, Ryan Garcia fight, we should get clarification, if not a full blown announcement on who
we
Errol
fell
Spence
for that
is.
once before too.
I
We've
agree with you.
fallen for
Yeah,
some of that stuff before.
I
don't.
That's
It's again like don't Lucy me, don't Charlie Brown me on this one.